Hearing none, thank you very much. We're now ready to hear from Dr. Clifton Otto, or Dr. Otto.
Yes, thank you. Aloha, Chair, members of the task force. Thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony today. Dr. Clifton Otto, you have my written testimony on agenda item 2 from the tax working group. On section 6, there's on page 19 under the why does legal cannabis cost more than the gray market cannabis? For access to banking and finance and corporate tax code, the solutions must be addressed at the federal level, which I find a little bit confusing. It makes me wonder, is there no role for federalism here? And are there no actions that the state can take to help expedite the resolution of the conflict with the federal law? Under section 7.3, tax treatment of medical cannabis, it says medical cannabis is primarily about access and affordability. I would say medical cannabis is primarily about medical supervision and education, both of which are really lacking and both of which are going to be needed in greater amounts if there's an adult use authorization. Then in section 11, a regulatory structure advisory board, I would say please recommend specifically including medical doctor and APRN, whose primary healthcare specialty is cannabinoid medicine. And then I wanted to briefly comment on a dissenting opinion by Administrator Ching, where she raises the concern about federal legalization overcoming local markets. And I share that concern and would suggest a recommendation that the legislature and the next governor of Hawaii take further action to end the federal conflict with marijuana and protect the state authorized use of cannabis. Those are my comments, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Otto. Task force members, questions for Dr. Otto?
Yes, Chair. Dr. Otto, you've said, you've commented many times about federal preemption, and you're saying that we should be involved in changing that, but you haven't said anything specifically how we can influence federal regulation and legislation. Do you have any, besides writing letters or lobbying, do you have any other suggestions as far as federal regulations are concerned?
Well, thank you for that question, Director Choi. And actually, our legislature has spoken on that issue in the regular session of 2021 with HCR 132, which I believe has been contained in a few of my written testimonies for this task. And they've made it very clear that the situation is unacceptable, that something needs to be done, and they laid out an option for that, which is currently resting with the Department of Health. But I think this really needs to be explored further, and I'm hoping that's something that the task force will still be able to do. You also have a Deputy Attorney General right there who could certainly offer you advice within an executive session.
Okay, so missing, not having federal regulation, would that be a barrier? And should we wait to do any more further work in legalization of adult use marijuana until the federal government has ruled and has given us guidance? Should we stop right now?
Well, so I think there are some very good arguments why the state would want to go ahead with adult use legalization. I'm a proponent for medical use. And so it's difficult to just say where you need to wait for Congress or the federal government to act, because we're seeing some steps, but we're just waiting, and we're having a lot of negative consequences to our patients and our dispensaries. So I would say it should be done in concert. You have a very unique opportunity now where the state is going to be considering adult use next session. This would be a perfect opportunity to encourage the legislature and our next governor to focus on this issue. And I think it could be used to also make people feel more comfortable with adult use legalization, because you're not just authorizing more activity that requires its participants to violate federal law.
Okay, you also mentioned in your testimony IRC 280E. It seems that the producers are already working around that particular tax structure. So do you think we should just tax the marijuana industry as we would tax any other for-profit corporation?
Well, I understand that there are cost of goods workarounds for this, but you still have the fact that dispensaries interact with regular banking services, and I don't see why dispensaries should be treated any differently than any other legitimate organization. Why give them additional tax burden, which is partly being passed on to our patients and increasing the cost? So I would like to see it done away with altogether and allow the state to treat them as regular entities.
Thank you, Dr. Otto. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you both. Task force members, any other questions for Dr. Otto? Hearing none.